Hi everybody, this is Patrick from Brain Love Health again. Today I want to go over something again that's extremely important for you to understand. We often talk in most of my presentations about the root cause that we believe is driving the process of dementia, cognitive decline that leads to Alzheimer's disease. I also talk about the fact that this root cause is a driving force in a lot of issues related to aging. I want to review that again today. Then I want to give you some examples of how this theory that has been backed up by science, however, how this theory interrelates to other areas that affect people in different ways. Those are very important parts, and I think they'll help you understand the process better. The other thing I want to drive home is I don't discuss these things because I want to alarm people. I don't discuss these things because we are trying to upset you or give you something to worry about. We educate you only because we're trying to motivate you to take steps, and there are steps you can take to prevent the process from occurring. Now, our primary focus at Brain Love Health is the brain and the health of the brain. So I relate a lot of my discussion to the issues as they affect the brain. However, many of the things I'm talking about have an impact on many of the issues and diseases of aging. So understand the root cause that I'm about to discuss here, and I think you'll have a better understanding of how you can take steps nutritionally, through exercise, through better sleep, to protect your body and protect your brain. So let's get to the topic at hand. You've often heard me speak about the HPG axis, the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. That is an endocrine system that begins functioning as a feedback loop at the point in which you're reproductively viable. Now, many of the hormones that are included in the HPG axis actually play a role in your growth and development as an infant, as a fetus, as an infant, up until the point you hit puberty and now you're reproductively viable. At that point, the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis plays a role in your life until you are no longer reproductively viable. So let's discuss this. It's made up of the hypothalamus, which is in your brain, and the hypothalamus secretes a hormone called GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, that then stimulates the anterior pituitary to produce two other hormones called luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. These two hormones stimulate the ovaries to produce an egg. The egg then produces estrogen and progesterone, and then the estrogen and progesterone go back to the hypothalamus and tell the brain that everything is working as it should. And the brain stops producing the GnRH until the next cycle in your monthly cycle. In men, it's the same thing. The GnRH produces LH and FSH, which produces the production of testosterone in your testicles. That then signals the brain that everything's working the way it should. In men, it's a little different than it is in women because we know women cycle through this every single month. In men, it's different. It's more steady and there's not that cyclical pattern. I'll get back to why that's relevant in a few minutes. But that is the reproductive process, which is driving many of the things that you experience at the point in which you're reproductively viable. Now, what happens in midlife? In midlife, you're no longer able to produce the eggs, which then prevents you from being able to produce the estradiol and the progesterone, which means the feedback to the brain is not getting there. So what does the brain do in that circumstance? The brain keeps sending out more and more gonadotropin releasing hormone, which stimulates the pituitary to keep increasing LH and FSH. That's the problem. That is the problem right there. That's the root cause. That's the issue which is driving many of the aging process, many of the issues of the aging process. But more specifically, that's the point in which you are starting to have brain fog. You're starting to have anxiety. You're unable to sleep. You're having weight gain issues. You might have some minor depression during these years. And it's because the feedback loop is broken. Now keep in mind, we as humans, human organisms and organisms of all sort, all have a functioning HPG axis that's designed to keep the species moving forward reproductively. It's designed to reproduce more of the species. When that becomes disrupted, that's when things start to happen and we start to see the problems associated with aging. Now let me talk about this process as we age, because this is important. When you're a fetus in utero, you're getting a hormone called chorionic gonadotropin, which is very similar to GnRH. That's what's stimulating your growth as a fetus, and that is very high up until the point of about 3 or 4 months after you're born. And you see the rapid growth from a little speck into a viable human being. At age 3 months, it drops down a little bit and then starts picking up again when you're about age 2, and you start to see that growth spurt again up until the point in which you're an adolescent. So this GnRH, which is chorionic gonadotropin, then it becomes gonadotropin releasing hormone, is stimulating your growth and development until the point in which you reach puberty. When you reach puberty, that's when the full GnRH axis or the full hypothalamic axis begins to function the way it's supposed to. Sends out a signal sends out LH-FSH, that produces estrogen and testosterone. The feedback goes back to the brain, and that system goes on throughout your reproductive years. But what happens when you reach midlife? What's occurring? What's occurring is you no longer have the estrogen and progesterone, your testosterone's going down, and when the brain doesn't get what it wants in the form of estrogen, estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone, it keeps making more GnRH. It keeps making more LH and FSH. But guess what? The ovaries can't give it what it wants. The testicles are not producing the testosterone they used to, so it can't give the signal that it wants back to the brain. So the brain keeps sending out more GnRH, which produces more LH and FSH. So here's the problem. This is the problem right here. As you reach premenopause, menopause, your eggs are no longer there, your estrogen can't be produced, and the brain keeps producing more luteinizing hormone or stimulating GnRH, which produces more luteinizing hormone. That is the problem right there. That is the problem. And unfortunately, you don't have the estrogen, but the LH keeps going up. Now, why is it doing that? It's trying to maintain reproduction, it's very important to maintain reproduction. Consequently, that's when we start to see all the bad things starting to happen in midlife. You know the symptoms. You've experienced the symptoms. Now, what's the point of all this? The point is, if scientifically we are able to find ways to balance out the effects of low estrogen and high luteinizing hormone, we will be able to prevent many of the issues that you're experiencing. Now, we believe that luteinizing hormone, and the research has shown, stimulates neuronal or the parts of your brain. The neurons become dysfunctional at that point. And it starts out slow at midlife and keeps going up until it then tapers off well into your 70s and 80s. However, The damage is occurring between the point in which you have no estrogen and the LH is going up in that interim time period of 20 to 25 years. That's the process that takes place that basically is driving the brain to become dysfunctional in your 70s and 80s. It occurs in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, and that's what drives the process that ultimately leads to cognitive decline. The other thing that's happening here is you recognize the symptoms that you're having. Weight gain, you have glucose sensitivity, you have issues with depression, anxiety. You can't sleep. If you get to sleep, you can't stay asleep. I don't know how many times I hear from people that once they hit menopause, they had trouble sleeping. And if they were able to get to sleep, they couldn't stay asleep. That's because this process is driving other hormones to become dysfunctional also. Your melatonin, your sleep hormone, goes down at menopause. Your cortisol, your wake or stress hormone, goes up at the same time. Your sugar sensitivities become imbalanced. So the point I'm trying to make here, and I need you to understand, that the basis behind the ingredients that Brain Love Health puts in their product is designed to balance out this dysregulation that occurs in midlife. That's what our products do. Now, it's unlike any product on the market today, unlike any other supplement. It's designed to balance out that high luteinizing hormone level. Now, let me give you some examples. Luteinizing hormone can be lowered or balanced out with melatonin. Luteinizing hormone can be lowered with inositol, which is another ingredient we put in our products. So our product is designed to lower the luteinizing hormone, but guess what? At the same time, it will help you sleep better. It will help you get to sleep. And then we put ashwagandha in there that will help lower the cortisol, which will help you stay asleep. So there's a lot of understanding and science and years of research that went into ways in which we can work on the root cause, but also give you some symptomatic release by helping you sleep better, helping your blood sugar balance better, help you be more calm and relaxed. And also we put ingredients in our products that will help your healthy neurons, your existing neurons that aren't sick and damaged at this point, have better connections, which will help with your memory, which will help with your recall, which will help with your day-to-day activities of your life. So there's real science that went into the ingredients of this product. Now I want to talk a little bit about some things that I have found over the years become confusing to people, but at the same time will drive home the point I'm trying to make here. Last week, or a couple weeks ago in our live presentation, in our YouTube videos, we talked about hysterectomies and oophorectomies, which is having your ovaries removed, is a significant risk factor. The literature indicates that those two events can basically drive up your risk factor from 35 to 70% as you age. Now, I know that wasn't discussed with you when you had the procedure done, or prior to the procedure. That's because they didn't really understand the impact of what your uterus and your ovaries would have long term, because they weren't looking at the entire HPG axis as a feedback loop that could ultimately lead to bad things down the road. Those two things, hysterectomy and oophorectomy, will increase your risk significantly. Now, why is that? Why does it do that? If you understand what I discussed here, this is a feedback loop. The brain talks to the hypothalamus talks to the pituitary talks to the gonads, the ovaries and the testicle, and then they talk back to the brain. When you have a hysterectomy and have your ovaries removed, you basically eliminated that part of the feedback loop. So there's no talk to the brain, which means this and this keep going up, 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 like they do in normal menopause. That's the problem you're having. Now, once you've had your ovaries surgically removed and your uterus removed, you've basically triggered menopause. And what we have found through the research is menopause is a triggering point for 20, 25, 30 years down the road for dementia and cognitive decline. Remember, your brain has billions of neurons. When this process occurs at menopause, it's a slow process, and then it builds up, and then it starts to spread, and then the wind starts blowing, and then the wind starts blowing the fire and the burning embers into other places, and that's when you start to get the full-blown effects of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. It starts out slow, but it starts in midlife, or in the case of hysterectomy or having your ovaries removed, that starts the trigger that leads to the 25 to 30 year period in which you'll get the dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I don't tell you these things to scare you. I tell you these things because there are things you can do to prevent the process from becoming a full-blown fire. You can keep the fire under control. Here's another example of what bolsters my point relative to the HPG axis. Down syndrome individuals typically live into their 60s. Back in the 1980s, that wasn't the case. They lived to 35, 40 if they could. But we've made advances on how to work with these people medically and so on. So they're living a lot longer. But guess what? At age 50, on average, they have 30%, 35% of Down's patients have Alzheimer's or dementia, early dementia and Alzheimer's disease. But here's the point that's very, very interesting. In that population, the men outnumber women 4-to-1 at age 60 that have the disease. However, in the normal population of men and women, women outnumber men 2-to-1. Now, why do we think that's happening? We think that's happening because women go through menopause. Normal women, women without Downs, go through menopause at around age 51. But menopause is a steep reduction in estrogen and progesterone. Whereas in men, it's a lot more gradual. Men still have testosterone in their 60s, 70s, even their 80s. Whereas women, by the time they go through menopause, don't have estrogen anymore. We believe that's the reason women have the problem twice as often as men. However, in the Downs population, men have it twice or 4 times as much as women. Why is that? Well, Downs males are sterile. There have been some cases reported where a Downs male's been able to have a child, but it's super, super rare. Downs females are fertile. They can have babies. And very often do. They can have a Downs baby and a normal baby. That happens all the time. The point I'm trying to make is if the Downs males are sterile, that means, and why are they sterile? It's because their testicles are extremely atrophied and don't function the way normal males do. Consequently, they don't produce testosterone. Consequently, you don't have the feedback loop that I'm talking about. In the Downs women, this works. In the Downs male, they don't have the testosterone that's producing the signal to the hypothalamus. Consequently, and their blood work shows their LH is elevated throughout their life, which means the issues related to luteinizing hormone are causing problems earlier in a Downs male than they would in any other group. The point is this, once again, it's the dysfunction of the HPG axis that's driving the process that leads to cognitive decline and dementia. Now, what's occurring? What's driving that process? The luteinizing hormone, we have shown in our research, and our studies are published, that basically luteinizing hormone seems to be driving the neurons to divide. Now, when neurons divide, that causes problem. That neuronal division leads to inflammation, oxidative stress. It leads to beta amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. It's that triggering point, we believe, that's driving the process as you age, because this becomes dysfunctional. Now, with all that information, and I hope you at least get the point that it's the hormonal dysregulation at midlife that's driving many of the diseases of aging, including dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I would like to stress, however, you can mitigate those damages and keep the forest fire under control by doing a number of things. Number one, eating better, eating the right foods, healthy fats, antioxidant types of foods like blueberries and resveratrol type nutrients, things that will keep the free radicals down, things that will keep inflammation down. And there's a number of things that we recommend in that regard. Studies have shown, and my research going back 15, 20 years ago suggested, if you're able to eliminate the peaks and valleys of luteinizing hormone, keep the peak lower, that you can reduce cognitive decline and you can reduce the proliferation of the beta amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. We showed that in the studies. The studies are on our website at Brain Love Health, brainlovehealth.com. So I want to get back to the issue that better nutrients, and there's many individuals out there that talk about how to keep your brain healthy through eating good food. Better exercise. One of the number one things that will keep your brain healthy is to get oxygen and circulation into your brain. And the best way to do that is through exercise. And then the third thing, and I can't stress this enough, you have to get good sleep. Sleep is the washing machine for your brain that cleans out the toxic debris that builds up during the day. Sleep is what will allow your brain to rejuvenate. It will help clean your brain of the things that you don't want in it. So sleep is so important, and studies indicate that if you're not sleeping 7 hours a night, less than 7, you're increasing your risk significantly. If you're not sleeping in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you're increasing your risk in your 70s and 80s significantly. Now, we hear things all the time about, oh, you don't need as much sleep when you're older. No, that's I hate to say it, that's BS. You need good sleep when you're older just like you do when you're younger, because that's when the brain is cleaning itself and restoring its energy, repairing the cells, and getting rid of the debris that's accumulated over the last day. So sleep is so important. Now, our product, Brain Love PM, is designed specifically for those two issues that I've discussed. Brain Love PM, with its ingredients, melatonin and inositol, is designed to lower LH in your body. And blood work tests and lab tests have shown that it will do that. Now, the other thing I want to point out, though, at the same time it's helping your LH function better, at the same time it's keeping your blood sugar imbalance better, at the same time it's providing you with antioxidant ingredients that will keep your free radical down, and anti-inflammatories that will keep the inflammation in your brain from occurring. While it's doing that, it's also helping you to sleep, which again is a major risk factor. So this product was designed for a twofold purpose: keep your hormones in balance, but also help you sleep and restore what your brain needs for its energy. So that's what Brain Love Health is designed to do. This has been ongoing research for the last 20 years. We have been looking for ways to address that root cause of luteinizing hormone. So I stress and beg you to understand these issues, and I ask you to reach out with any questions. We're here to help. We will give you integrative nutritional coaching if you need it. We will help you understand what you can do in your lifestyle to keep yourself healthy, to keep your brain healthy in particular. We offer that advice. If you look at our social media, you will find post after post after post that talks about nutrients, that talks about sleep, that talks about the importance of keeping your microbiome and your gut healthy, because your gut is connected to your brain. All these things are interrelated, but the process of prevention needs to start in midlife when your hormones become dysregulated due to your lack of ability to be reproductively viable anymore. That's the net of my discussion today. We're here to help. We love to love your brain, and you can find us at brainlovehealth.com. And I also want to just say one last commercial. We just recently introduced Brain Love PM, and we are now offering a risk-free trial of the drug. If you purchase the product and don't like it for any reason and it's not accomplishing all the things that I indicated it would, you can let us know and we will refund your money. So you can try your first bag, 30 doses of Brain Love PM for free, essentially. Not free, you'll pay for it, but if you don't like it, we'll refund your money. We're that confident in the feedback we get from the customers that we work with is so positive that we're confident to make that offer to you. Give it a try. What do you have to lose? And you have everything to gain. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Patrick Smith, the Chief Executive Officer, and Brain Love Health is my passion and my desire for you.